information that truly is going to impact many lives and truly become revolutionary. Listen, I'm not the presenter this morning, but I want to get out of the way and bring the presenter to the forefront. This is a gentleman that I hold in a high regard, have a tremendous amount of respect for, not just because of the success he's had in business and the industry as a whole, but it's because his commitment truly has been to helping others, and that really is the energy and synergy that we're in this season in life. And there's no accident that you're on this Zoom this morning because clearly you are in that same alignment. So with that, I want to get out of the way and bring to the forefront good friend, business partner, and mentor, Mr. Andre Vaughn. Mr. Vaughn, are you out there, sir?
I'm here. Can you hear me clearly?
I hear you loud and clear, sir. The Zoom is yours.
Oh man, I'm so fired up, about this presentation. It's near and dear to me. I found nutrition probably about a little over a decade ago. It was in 2011 that I was really introduced to the power of nutrition. And what I found in my life that when I was promoting and marketing something else, I started focusing on that something else. But then when I started promoting nutrition, you didn't go and you didn't do a presentation without being conscious that, man, I got to get my health together, or man, I have to lose some weight, or man, I need to start walking or in movement or hydrating. And so you just tend to pay attention to your health just a little bit more when you're sharing the message. I found that out the last couple of years. We were, dibbling, dabbling in other marketing platforms. And what I noticed about my own personal health is that it was deteriorating, and it happens really quickly, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, put a number one in the chat if you didn't talk about nutrition as much and you just saw some things that you just let go, that you maybe gain 3 or 4 or 5 extra pounds, or your sugar is not where it needs to be, or your diet is just out the door because you're suffering in silence and nobody has to hold you accountable because you're not presenting it there. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I'm excited about Top Shelf Nutra and just this whole launch about what we're about to do and what we're going to do, guys. And this is why I'm here. And I don't know, and you put a number 2, if you can resonate with any of these things in the next slide. I mean, 1990 to today, just from the 1990s to today, was 41% increase in heart disease, 45% increase in asthma, 250% increase in epilepsy. And when you think of 300% increase in fertility treatment, and if you notice, the fertility treatment clinics don't care, 50% increase in inflammatory bowel disease. And when you look at food allergies, and you look at the diabetes, you look at the Alzheimer's, when you look at all of these things, nobody's sounding the alarm. I mean, 4,200% increase in autism. I mean, somebody, I believe, should go to jail. I mean, we have some of the smartest universities out there. And so why isn't anybody sounding alarm? And this was another alarming thing, and I'll get to the speaker just to go over a few things, and then we're going to fare you well. We won't be before you long on this Saturday morning. But, the crazy thing is U.S. Senate document 264, one part of it said that 99% of American people are deficient in minerals, and a marked deficiency in any one or more important minerals actually result in a disease. So when you look at this screen, you know why this happened, because we're mentally deficient. I mean, they went on to say it was 83% deficient in the soils. And so when you're eating a perfect nutritional plate, it's just not there. And so it doesn't matter what's on your plate. It matters what's in the food. And in Houston, we have a problem. Another thing is a lot of people are gluten intolerant. And so when you're in gluten intolerant, ladies and gentlemen, you're not absorbing. So it's not what you take, it's what you absorb. And so it's almost like taking your car and driving it and taking all the oil out, which is the nutrition, and only putting water. Everybody says hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Well, how's that working for us? I mean, we have to put the minerals, and I'm not talking about running to one of these grocery stores. I'm not talking about to go do that and kind of figure out where you are. I'm talking about you need some high grade, top shelf Nutra, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you need. I know it's nutrition, but you need some top shelf Nutra. And that's why the whole part of the name, guys, what Mr. Smith and Mr. Elder have put together is second to none, because what they found out is that they're going to put together high grade nutrition at a low grade price. let me say it again. It's high grade nutrition at a low grade price. And it was so funny. This is how green our bishop is. He didn't know where Top Shelf came from. I said, man, that's great. Everybody put a number 3 in your chat if you had some Top Shelf stuff before. Not nutrition, but you had some Top Shelf stuff. He didn't know. He was oblivious to it, but you knew Mr. Elder knew. And so I was just so fired up about the name and everything that happened. And our job today is just to go over a few topics through an interview style with Mr. Smith, and then we're going to get this thing on. This thing pre-launches in June 3rd, but you are here early. That's why I said anytime we have meetings, you don't post in social media, because we want to make sure we kick the tires and break some stuff and fix some stuff, and so we can go to the next level until we do the work. I can say this very concept, right, of a membership base, a subscription base, is help a company have over 1 million members. Over 1 million members, something as simple as only paying $15 a month and getting up to 50% off the nutrition. So we don't have to say, oh, I'm only going to get it for me now, and next month I'll get it for my spouse, or next month I'll get it for my siblings or my family and my children. No, everybody is going to be able to afford Top Shelf Nutri. And that's why we have a fiduciary responsibility. We have a moral responsibility that once you know something, it's important to share. And that's what this platform is all about. So I'm going to be quiet. And so for the next 20 minutes or 23 minutes or so, I'm going to bring Mr. Todd Smith on. And, you know, when I first met this guy, man, he had a true passion for health. And it didn't matter what time, it didn't matter what he was doing. He always, ladies and gentlemen, always took time out of his busy schedule just to talk to us and talk to our family members, talk to our loved ones. And it's just been 100%. He gives me the real confidence when I'm dealing with my mother that, man, she can be okay through natural nutrition. And I'm telling you, it's nothing more of an asset than this company. And it's our job to do what we need to do. So, Mr. Todd Smith, are you out there?
I'm here. Can you hear me all right?
Oh, man, you're looking good, man. I can hear you, man. I'm so fired up to have you before us, man. We're gonna jump right into this thing, Todd. Now, you know, you've seen those statistics. When you first saw it, when you first saw the statistics, give me a quick synopsis of the state of nutrition for our society.
Well, I appreciate that, Andre, and I appreciate being invited to be here with. But we've watched over the last 30 years, we've watched as the health in our country and others has really, really gone downhill, and it was bad to start. I mean, America ranks almost the worst of the industrial nations. We spend more on medical care than all the other industrial nations combined in our nation. And in those treatments, we're not solving the problem, we're just band-aiding it, right? These are medical treatments to try and treat the symptoms of the disease as opposed to the actual problem, the actual health. And I'm not talking about emergency care. Emergency care, we do a great job. I'm talking about chronic illness. Those diseases you had up on the screen, those are illnesses of deficiency. They're illnesses of not having enough nutrition, not having the elements. You talked about trace mineral requirements and essential nutrients. When the body doesn't have those building blocks, when it doesn't have the raw ingredients it needs to repair and rebuild itself, it breaks down. Those are diseases of deficiency that normally only occur in places where people are starved, where people don't have enough food. But in our country, we have surplus and more. We have choices, all sorts of variety and options, and yet we're dying of deficiency, nutrient deficiency diseases. And so what that tells us, Andre, is that the system of our food supply is broken. When we produce the food that we're consuming, the focus is all about profitability. It's all about producing large quantities. It's about, tons per acre and things like that, as opposed to how can we grow the most valuable food. You put up there Senate Document 264, where we knew many, many decades ago, over a century ago, we knew that our farm soils in America were deficient of these essential nutrients, these minerals. And the only thing we've done since then to try and remedy that is to give people higher carb diets with more sugars. We haven't done anything for the soils. In fact, it was at this time, shortly thereafter, that chemical fertilizers were invented. And so instead of putting natural organic things back in the soil to regenerate and release those nutrients into the produce and things that are grown, what we've been using is a chemical fertilizer called NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, because the scientists discovered that you can get just as large of a yield, just as many bushels of corn and just as many bushels of soybeans, et cetera, by putting those three minerals back in the soil. And so that's all the plants need in order to produce a lot, but it doesn't say anything about the nutrition. And in fact, there are over 90, about 93 right now identified essential nutrients. And, over 75 of those are minerals. And if you're not getting those 60 identified and another 15 that we don't know exactly what they do, but we find them in healthy people, if you're not getting those 75 minerals, you're going to wind up deficient, and then the body can't repair and rebuild itself. You're going to wind up with some sort of a degenerative deficiency disease like you were talking about earlier. And until we change our process and change the food that we're eating, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And so in today's environment, you have to supplement. That's the only way that you're going to get these nutrients, is you're going to have to add nutrition into what you're eating.
Wow. Now, they said that this will be the first generation where we'll be burying our kids, because of the lack of nutrition. When we were going, we used to get, the soils were much better, right? And now the 83% depleted, and that's, debatable. And now, with the whole, you're not absorbing the gluten intolerance, and it already was a lack, and you see a lot of things happen. Now, the digestive system, they said it's a second brain. You say your gut, I have a gut feeling, unless you're like your second brain. With all of the diseases that we see, how does the digestive system play a part? And then we'll jump into a little weight loss, a little diabetes, and then we'll let the folks go today. But if you could just
it's a great question, Andre. And what's happened is, this first part, we were talking about deficiency, right? But now as you move to digestion, this becomes another problem, because we've added to the deficiency the challenge with the way that we get nutrition into our bodies is by ingesting it. And when our digestive system gets inflamed, well, that percentage, or that actual ability to break down and absorb nutrients out of food, becomes compromised as well. Well, how's that happen? Well, we are now exposed to so many more chemicals than there ever was before, whether it's in our cleaning products and cleaning our clothes, cleaning our homes, in the foods that we're consuming. They're using all sorts of herbicides and pesticides that were never used before. Well, all of these are inflammatory. All of these affect and create inflammation in our digestive system. And so when your intestines are inflamed, meaning they're swollen, well, then the nutrients can't pass through that need to get through. And in some cases, they become the intestines become damaged, and now you have nutrients that shouldn't be getting through, and chemicals that shouldn't be getting through that are making it through into the bloodstream. And so then the body starts to attack itself, and you've got an autoimmune response. And so we've got a whole bunch of what I would call deficiency-caused diseases that we're suffering from. And like you say, they're a combination of, one, deficiency, and two, we're just being bombarded by all of the toxins and chemicals and things that our bodies now have to detoxify and eliminate. And so our bodies need extra tools today in order to combat that. So yeah, there's fantastic products and ingredients that we take for nutrition to help replace the deficiencies, but there's also a number of things that are now part of the program in order for those to be absorbed. We've got to calm this digestive system down. We've got to increase the percentage absorption of the food that we eat. So by doing that, we're getting more nutrition from the supplements and from the food we eat. So that's the strategy here at Top Shelf, is one, to make sure we get all those known essential nutrients plus beneficial nutrients, and two, support the digestive system in its approach so that it can take in and absorb those nutrients, so then the body can go to work.
Wow. It's so funny that, when I think about weight loss, and if I did not know anything about nutrition, if I was never introduced, if I'm just going out to my job, I could see myself 50 pounds heavier than what I was. So when I see some of my friends, I'm not confused on why they're the size that they are, because even when and you make a few bad choices, you might be 10 pounds heavier. And this happens in a week. It's happening rapidly. I want to tackle weight loss. You see exercise, but I knew that when you're sweating, right, you're taking all the minerals out your body, but you're not replenishing them. Right. And so, you're sweating. People say, oh, going to the gym, and it's not sustainable. You see all types of surgeries. What's your input on weight loss, how it could be, how folks can be successful with it, with, doing exercise, but at the same time implementing minerals?
Yeah, great question, Andre. And it's interesting because exercise is beneficial to the body, but I like to use the word movement as opposed to exercise. But we have to make sure we support the body in that effort, because if the tissues are inflamed, your joints and things are inflamed, and then you start moving them more, they just do more damage. Okay, so before we can actually jump into the gym and start exercising and try to lose weight, we have to say, okay, how did we get to the status that we're at? What were the causes that caused us to gain that weight to begin with? And one of them is a deficiency of nutrients, right? If we're not getting nutrients out of our food, then the body develops something called pica or cribbing. It's cravings. We're all familiar with that. We've all had a big meal and then find ourselves going to the fridge and saying, I need something, right? I'm still hungry. Even though you just had a huge plate of food, you're still hungry. And it's not for calories. You ate plenty of calories. What your body is saying is, it's saying, guess what? None of the stuff I needed was in that food I just ate. And so your body has a natural ability to do this, and it'll develop a craving. We've seen it in animals, and the horses start to eat the fence post, or they start cribbing on the pens or the door frames. Pica and cribbing are something you'll see when a dog starts eating grass, or like I said, they start eating the posts, biting out of the wood, chewing on things to try and get minerals. That's why a good farmer will put a salt lick out with minerals. It's a mineral block is what it is, to try and stop the animals from eating their fences apart. And so, if you want to be satisfied with the food you eat, you've got to get more nutrition in it. So that will stop the cravings, right? By making sure your body has sufficient store and continual daily intake of these essential nutrients. The second thing is that we were lied to as far as the food pyramid. We were told that, we should have 80% of our calories, 70 to 80% of our calories coming from grains and complex carbohydrates. And it's just not true. Carbohydrates are one of the number one factors of why we have so many inflammatory diseases and suffer from these inflammatory diseases in America, is because of that food pyramid and the communication we learned in school that we should be getting so many of our calories from grains. And it just is not the case. Grains should be a smaller portion. In fact, the ratios of fat and carbohydrates should be reversed. We should be consuming fat and healthy lean proteins along with our carbs, but those carbs need to come in the form of vegetables and need to come in the form of some of these if we're going to have fruits, we need some of the darker berries and things that are much higher in nutrition, where we're getting antioxidants and we're getting phytonutrients and all these things, as opposed to just straight sugar, which is what most carbohydrates are. And especially if those carbohydrates have been hybridized and genetically modified, which most of our grains have, now we're consuming foods that are not only lower in nutrition, harder to digest, but they are also just loaded with these chemicals and just raises the toxicity. So just switching our ratios of what we're taking in our diet, turning that food pyramid on its head, and making sure the body is satiated with these essential nutrients will reduce the cravings, will reduce the inflammation, will increase satiation, and the body will be able to then drop the pounds, as you say, without having to, completely burn yourself up in the gym.
Wow. Guys, put a number 5 in the chat if you're getting some next level information. I mean, this information for me is like worth millions and millions of dollars, because you are your greatest asset. And when you hear other things, you don't normally say, oh, go to the gym. Oh, this diet and that diet and that diet. Let's talk and tackle high blood pressure and diabetes. And, we probably have to end with this. out of respect for time. But, a lot of times people say, oh, it's hereditary, or, it's hereditary. And I say, well, man, if I'm eating the same thing my mom is eating, right, then I'm probably going to have the same result that my mom is going to have. And so it's not necessarily hereditary, but I want you to tack on, because a lot of people are struggling with diabetes. They're cutting off limbs. I know people have cut off toes. And if you could just talk about that and high blood pressure, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. So when we talk about high blood pressure and blood sugar issues, what we're talking about is blood chemistry. We're talking about ratios of nutrients in the blood or deficiencies of those nutrients, and the body trying to compensate for it. So we'll take high blood pressure to begin with. This is an inflammatory disease. So when you have nutrients that make it into your blood that inflame the cardiovascular system, cause those veins and arteries to swell, to be irritated, well, then what happens if you have a garden hose and it's, this big around and all of the tissue swells? Well, they get larger and they swell, and that space becomes smaller, right? And when you compress the space but have to run the same volume through it, that increases pressure. That's the definition of pressure. That's where you say, oh no, they have high blood pressure. And it's because of the inflammation of the interior walls of those veins and arteries from the irritation of the stuff floating around in the blood. So when we clean up the blood, we get rid of those irritants, we clean up the diet, and no longer are those foreign particles and irritating particles and chemicals making their way through the digestive system and into the bloodstream. All of a sudden, the body can balance that pressure a little better. It can bring the inflammatory response. The inflammatory response is your immune system. When your immune system is on alert, because things are getting in there that shouldn't, and there's deficiency of things that they need in order to process, and they don't have them, then the immune system says, uh-oh, problem. And that creates that inflammation, that congestion. It's just like trying to get through traffic on bad at 5 o'clock at night, 5 o'clock traffic. You're trying to get blood through that area when there's a traffic jam, a compression in there, and that creates high blood pressure. And then the rest of the health problems are resultant from that one underlying cause. So clean up the diet, get rid of the irritants, help the digestive system, keep those things from getting into the bloodstream, and then all of a sudden high blood pressure is no longer a problem because the inflammation in the cardiovascular goes away. And there's a lot of blood chemistry there with the needed nutrients of calcium, magnesium, boron, strontium, et cetera. And that's why it's so important to make sure you're supplementing every day, because you're not going to get those specialist trace minerals in the food that you eat. When it comes to blood sugar, Andre, we've got another issue, and that is the body is designed to keep your blood sugar within a certain range. You eat a little bit, it goes up a little bit. And you fast a little bit between meals, it comes down a little bit. And it stays in that healthy range of going up and coming down. But the body has also an immune response, an inflammatory response, just like your blood pressure, that if the blood sugar goes too high, the body says, we got to get some of that sugar out of the blood, and it goes and produces a hormone called insulin. It goes and captures that blood, pulls it out, captures that sugar, and pulls that glucose out of the blood, and then stores it as fat. Well, that process generally is an emergency response. Emergency responses are not very accurate. They tend to be act quick, right? And figure out how you should have acted afterwards, right? It's a cut, not measure. They say measure 3 times, cut once. Well, with immune responses, the body goes into alert and it just sends out the insulin. It doesn't necessarily know exactly how much it needs, and oftentimes it overshoots. And as it does that, that blood sugar that was too high now actually comes too low. So you get a spike in blood sugar, then you get a fall in blood sugar. And it's in those extremities of very high and very low that we do damage to the tissue. And it actually irritates the cardiovascular system. It irritates the pancreas for having to work so hard. And as a result, the body is in a state of stress again. And that all of that blood sugar going up and blood sugar going down and that massive rush of insulin also irritates the cardiovascular system and increases high blood pressure. It increases the need for the body to then try and shore up those veins and arteries so that they don't break. And so you have an increase of platelet counts, you have an increase of cholesterol created by the body, not from diet, to try and make sure there aren't any fissures and things as that pressure is increasing in those veins and arteries because of inflammation. It's trying to put a layer of cholesterol in there to keep it from bursting and having an aneurysm or something like that. So all of these things play together. When we talk about blood pressure, when we talk about blood sugar, those two tend to be very closely related. One can cause the other and vice versa. And so it's very important that, again, we look at our diet, clean it up as best we can, avoid as many of the irritants and chemicals as possible, as feasible, but then make sure that we're giving the body all of the support nutrition it needs to get those essential nutrients, to get the beneficial nutrients, and also to support the body's ability to fight off free radicals, fight off this type of inflammatory damage, calm the system down, and allow the body to operate healthily and efficiently.
Wow, man. So next level, ladies and gentlemen, and why I'm so fired up is that we're on a crusade, to bring over 1 million people to hear the message and be a part of the movement. We've all been to an access of funerals over the last couple of years. Is to the point where people just see it as being normal. You're seeing folks that are 31 years old and 26 years, they're being buried. You go, you cry, and you keep it moving. So we're being immune to the fact that we needed to sound the alarm. And so we're going to need your help. And what Mr. Smith and Mr. Elder have done, before we were paying 50% more for the product. Now they say, you know what? You don't have to pay 50% more. We're going to do kind of like a Costco, Sam's Club type of deal, plus Amazon Prime, where we're not going to charge you for shipping. And in many cases, we would pay $15 to $30 just in shipping per month, providing you were getting the nutrition. But these three things are now going to equal top shelf Nutra. What I'm fired up about it is that, man, if I can order as much as I want, the more that I order, like a Sam's or Costco's, the bigger and the deeper the discount that I'm going to receive. And so to be able to pay only $15 a month, starting in June is second to none. But I begged them. I said, man, I can't wait to June. I want to get my folks in position. So if you're here early, you're getting this in position early, where we could pay the $15 a month ahead for the whole year. Instead of paying $180, he allowed us to pay $150. And so I'm fired up, and we already got some folks that are already on board, and they're ready to share the message, because we can't do it alone. And that's why we invited you. And I know, and I believe that this information that you heard today, all of our families need to hear it. And we'll do this again, this type of format next Saturday, but throughout the week. And we're going to have different informational sessions, so you'll understand what Top Shelf Nutra is all about. But it's all about this information and passing. All I want you to do is look at the challenge, take the challenge. I want you to take the challenge, share the challenge, and promote the challenge. That's all I want you to do, because your challenge could be anything you want it to be. And so once you join the challenge, you take the challenge and you share the challenge. So that's it. That's all, Mr. Smith. Thank you so much for really pouring out to the individuals. Please put a number 10, because that was next level information. Put a 10 in the chat just to say thank you to Mr. Smith, and we'll make sure we get this recording out. And if you're not already currently a member, if you're not a member, make sure you get back with the person that invited you, so you can get that early in before we bring the million to this message. We can go to churches, we can go to organizations, we can go to family reunion, we can go everywhere, because a lot of people are mineral deficiency, as you saw us in the document. A lot of people are struggling and don't know what to do. And so thank you so much, Mr. Smith, and thank you for all of the guests who have joined us. Have a good one. Thanks, everyone.